All right, I think now is probably a good time for us to get started. We're about 2 minutes after the hour. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Thank you all for answering. Looks like we had about 87% of you participate. So thanks um, for doing that. And you should be able to see the results if you're curious. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome. My name is Alyssa Torrance, and I am the Communications and Outreach Manager for CLARB, and we're so glad that you could join us today. Before we get started, just a couple of tech tips. So this event is being recorded, and the recording will be posted to YouTube and shared by email following the event. We welcome your questions throughout the presentation. If you have questions for us, please use Zoom's Q&A function instead of the chat. That just helps us to keep track of things and make sure that we answer everyone's questions. We will be pausing periodically, and we should also have time at the end of the presentation for questions. And then automated closed captioning is available. So to view captions, you'll look in the Zoom meeting controls toolbar, and you should find it there. Okay, so I want to take a minute to introduce the CLARB support team. So we've got Sean, who is presenting with me today, Lindsay and Staten. These CLARB team members are the ones to know. They will be your go-to resource throughout the licensure process, and you can think of them as your advocates. They are in your corner, they're answering any questions you have, and they're helping you to navigate your individual path to licensure. All right, so on the agenda for today, we're going to start with an overview of licensure, what it is and why it's important. And then we'll pause for questions, and then we'll dive into how to get licensed. Then we'll get into more specifics about the exam, the LARE. We'll pause again for questions, and then we'll share a little bit about what comes after you get your first license. So today, we will be throwing around some of these terms that you might not be familiar with. So let's get to know them. So the first one is CLARB, that's us. It stands for the Council of Landscape Architectural Registration Boards. And we work to protect the public's health, safety, and well-being by establishing and promoting professional licensure standards. Our members are the licensure boards across the United States and Canada. The next one is LARE. That stands for the Landscape Architect Registration Exam, and this is the exam that's required for licensure. It assesses your ability to protect the public's health, safety, and well-being. We also manage a professional information system called the CLARB Council Record, and this is the online verified record of your exam, work, and education history and continuing education credits located in one place. It's a valuable resource that you can use throughout your career, and it makes getting and staying licensed much easier. You can think of it kind of like your LinkedIn profile, but the information that's housed in it is verified by CLARB. And so because it has been verified, it's more like an official transcript that is submitted whenever you are applying for a license. Jurisdiction is a term that we use to describe the location where you get licensed to practice landscape architecture. So when we say jurisdiction, we are talking about the states, territories, districts, and provinces. The licensing or registration board is the jurisdiction's governing entity that issues the license to practice landscape architecture in their area. For example, if you want to practice landscape architecture in Kansas, you need to be licensed in Kansas by the Kansas board. Each jurisdiction has a board that issues licenses. CLARB, we do not issue licenses. More on that later. So we don't issue licenses, but we do serve as advisors to candidates and licensees as you navigate your path to licensure. So we are here to support you. All right, so what is licensure? It protects the public, it's required to practice landscape architecture, and it's local. So let's take a closer look at each of these. Licensure is a formal legal recognition that you have demonstrated sufficient knowledge, skills, and abilities to practice without endangering the health, safety, or well-being of the public. So as you may know, lawyers take the bar exam and they maintain their license throughout their career so that they can practice law in a given state or province. The same goes for accountants, medical doctors, and professional landscape architects. So as you read through this list, consider how your work could impact the health, safety, and well-being of the public. Licensure is required to practice and call yourself a landscape architect. This is a map of all of CLARB's member boards. If you want to practice in any of these areas, you must be licensed. Each jurisdiction shown here has a regulatory board, and that board issues your license to practice in their area. So to recap, licensure protects the public, it's required to practice, and it's issued by your state or provincial board. All right, next up, what are the benefits of licensure? There are so many. So first is professional distinction. Licensure demonstrates a deep commitment to professional development and leadership in the field. Employers actively seek out licensed landscape architects because it shows expertise, credibility, and a dedication to the profession. Licensure grants you equal professional status to architects and engineers, setting you apart in the industry. Only licensed landscape architects can stamp drawings and in most areas lead private practices. This exclusivity garners respect from clients, other professionals, and the public. For career advancement, being licensed opens up greater opportunities for career progression. So you can become a specialized expert, you could start your own firm, or you could work as an independent consultant when you're licensed. Licensure also enables you to mentor others on the path to licensure and give back to the profession. And earning potential. Holding a professional license allows you to command higher earning potential. Clients and employers are willing to pay more for the expertise and credibility that a licensed landscape architect brings to a project. So in this study by Oxford Economics, landscape architecture is included in the high skill group, which is the red arrows. So we know that licensure has a positive impact on salary. This study shows that licensure has a 6% impact for women and 8% impact for non-white people in high skill jobs. These are relatively much higher increases than those for white men in landscape architecture. The current student body is significantly more diverse than the profession. A diverse profession is better prepared to serve diverse communities, as well as the full range of communities nationwide. So in short, licensure helps close the gender and racial income gaps while protecting the public. Okay, so before we move on to the next section of today's presentation, we'll pause just a minute for questions. So let's see if we have any questions over in the Q&A. All right, Sean, how long does it take for CLARB to review your education and experience prior to registering for the exams?
Really, that depends on you and your supervisors. So as far as education goes, we have you reach out to your school directly and send your transcripts to CLARB. This can be done by email or mail. I highly recommend that you send it by email. I don't know of really many people that send anything by snail mail nowadays. And so if you can send it by email, I would recommend doing that because we pretty much get those within about 24 hours. And then we'll go a little bit deeper into the CLARB council record, but it's all an online verified system. And so it's almost instant. when it comes to entering in your employment information and having that email kick out to your supervisor. So let's just say, for instance, you were sitting next to them and you submitted everything you needed to send an email for verification to your supervisor. That's something they would get almost instantly to their email box. So it can be done rather quickly. I know some people struggle a little bit with maybe getting previous employers, so that may be something that holds up the process a little bit, but it's a rather quick process.
Great. And kind of along the same lines, how long before registering for the exams do you recommend we set up our council record? If our jurisdiction requires pre-approval, how long does that process take? And is the council record required for that approval?
So the council record may not be needed for approval. You can apply directly to the state jurisdiction if you need pre-approval. I would say that you do need the council record in order to register for the exams, and we don't charge for you to apply for pre-approval. So I would recommend going through and go ahead and start your council record up, get everything that you need in there for licensure, and apply through us. But obviously, you can go either directly to the board or you can use your CLARB council record. Just keep in mind that either way, you have to pay for the CLARB council record in order to register for the exams. So why not just take advantage of, no charge in order for you to apply for pre-approval? And as far as when it's recommended, I would say I would recommend it as soon as possible. If you have an idea of when it is that you want to test, you can start getting that everything in order. You can get your education and you can get your employment in. You can register for an exam if that's what you choose to do. We have the December registration is open until November 25th. And so I would say start it as soon as possible.
Great, thanks. It looks like we're going to cover some of these other questions in our future slides. So we'll take a break from questions. We'll get back to the presentation, excuse me, and then we'll hit some more questions a little bit later. So I'll throw it over to you, Sean.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Alyssa. So in this section of the presentation, we're going to go through how to get licensed. And so we're going to go ahead and move forward with that. So getting licensed is a process that does take some time. You can think of it as an upfront investment and it will pay dividends throughout your entire career. Remember that CLARB and our support team exists to help you navigate that process, which looks a little different for each person. So start with CLARB, consider where you want to work, complete the 3 E's, and then apply for licensure. I recommend visiting clarb.org and creating an account with us right away. You can start a free profile with us, which gets just the basic information of, your name, where you live at, maybe even where you're going to practice, maybe where you work, and then you'll gain access to resources, helpful reminders, and then go ahead and start building out your profile. This is a foundation that will one day become your CLARB council record. So as we said, each jurisdiction has a licensing board that issues license for their area. Requirements vary by jurisdiction, so keep this in mind when you want to practice in a different state or country in the future. You will want to familiarize yourself with the requirements of the jurisdiction where you want to get your first license. You can find these on the website. Big improvements coming soon. We are going to have a new website coming up in the new year. So hopefully everyone finds that user friendly. Your first license is referred as your initial licensure, and the term reciprocal licensure is used to describe subsequent licenses. So when you're applying for a licensure, you can only apply in one jurisdiction, one state at a time. You will want to get your initial licensure, and after receiving your initial licensure, that is when you can apply for reciprocity in another state. You can be licensed in as many jurisdictions as you want, and many practicing professionals are licensed in multiple jurisdictions. Just a fun fact, I think the most license that I've seen in a record is probably close to 38. Some people have work all across the United States and Canada. So maybe that's the way that you want to take your career, and you can use CLARB in order to apply for reciprocity in those jurisdictions. So next slide here is going to be complete the 3 E's: education, examination, and experience. These are the 3 keys to licensure: education, examination, and experience. You're going to need all 3 of these in order to pursue licensure. These qualifications demonstrate that you are competent to practice landscape architecture without endangering the public. We're adding a feature to our website that will step you through the 3 E's based on your unique background. It is not yet available, but this is where our support team can really shine for you. They will help you determine your next steps based on your educational background. So most candidates earn a bachelor's or master's degree in landscape architecture, though that is not the only option. We support many pathways to licensure outside of the traditional degree in LA that maintain rigorous standards. And because those requirements vary by jurisdiction, you'll want to contact our support team for personalized guidance. After completing your degree, you'll enter their education details into the CLARB profile. And again, just remember you can add that information into your CLARB record or profile, but you are going to have to take the steps to reach out to your school and send your transcripts directly to CLARB. That way we can verify them in the system and let you know exactly, if your degree is accredited, if it's another bachelor's. Obviously, if you have a degree in another profession, we also can verify those as well. So the next one is going to be examination. This right here are the 4 exams that you need to complete if you wish to become licensed in the United States or Canada. All licensed landscape architects must take and pass the 4-part exam known as the LAIR. This computerized exam tests the knowledge and skills that you will use every day as a landscape architect to protect the health, safety, and welfare on the public. We'll take a closer look at the exam a little later. To take the exam, you'll upgrade your free CLARB profile to a CLARB Council record. CLARB will verify your education details to ensure you've completed your degree. As you take the sections of the exam, your results will automatically populate into your CLARB Council record. All right, and next is experience. Something I like to kind of preach to anyone that is maybe working while they're taking the exam or they're working right when they come out of school. These are the 4 areas that you're going to want to make sure that you gain knowledge in. Also, it just happens to be that these are your 4 exams. So most jurisdictions allow you to begin the exam process while gaining the experience required for licensure, so you can work on the exam and experience requirements at the same time. You'll need to gain experience under the supervision of a licensed landscape architect in these 4 areas of regulated practice, which are also the 4 sections of the exam, as I stated before. The amount of experience varies by jurisdiction, so this is another reminder to familiarize yourself with the requirements of the jurisdiction that you want to become first licensed in. And another plug for CLARB support team who is here to help you understand those requirements. You'll use your CLARB Council record to document your professional experience, and CLARB will verify the details with your employer. As you think about graduating and finding a full-time job, we encourage you to ask your potential employers what they do to support your path to licensure. Many employers will pay for the cost of the exam and your licensure and give you time off to study and go take the exam, and larger firms have had many study groups you can join. So apply for licensure. Once you have completed the education examination and experience requirements for your jurisdiction, you're ready to apply for licensure. Throughout the process, you've been keeping track of your education, exam, and experience requirements in the CLARB Council record. Now you will apply for licensure with your jurisdiction's board using the CLARB Council record. CLARB will transmit your council record to the board on your behalf. The board will review those core components of your CLARB Council record, education, examination, experience, your 3 E's, and the additional requirements they may have. If you meet those requirements, you'll be issued your license to practice in landscape architecture area. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Now that you've completed your CLARB Council record, you will automatically be evaluated for CLARB certification. The industry recognizes distinction for landscape architect professionals that signifies you have met the professional standards established by CLARB and carries out recommendations that you be granted licensure without further review. Becoming CLARB certified gives you a competitive advantage and fast tracks your path to licensure. And then before we dive into detail of the exam, let's pause again for some brief questions. We'll see if there's any new ones that came into the Q&A. I just want to say thank you, Barbara, for joining us here today as well. All right, and then Let's see. If I currently work in the US and move to Canada in the near future, can work experience gained in the US be transferred to Canada when I apply for licensure in a Canadian province or vice versa? To my knowledge, yes. There's not many states. There may be one or two states that want you to have that experience within that state in order to apply for licensure. Other than that, the experience can be gained all across the United States and Canada. If it happens to be experience outside of that, like abroad, then you're going to need to speak with your jurisdiction or state board to figure out exactly if they will accept that experience. But the experience is not needed in that state in order to apply for licensure, as long as you have gained in those four areas of practice. How does reciprocity work once licensed? And so it's essentially this, you apply the same exact way as you would for initial licensure. You're going to need to meet each one of those states' requirements in order to become licensed in that state. So, just for example, you may have 2 years of experience, with one of those years being under a licensed landscape architect in Texas. But you may go to somewhere like Maryland where they want 2 years of experience, with both of those years being under a licensed landscape architect. So you would need one more year of experience under a licensed landscape architect. You want to make sure, again, that's, doing your homework and figuring out exactly what is needed in that state in order to become licensed, because each state is going to have their own requirements, and you will need to make sure that you meet that state's requirements in order to become licensed, even if you're already licensed. I have been registered since 1990. Congrats, Gary, on your long career as a landscape architect.
Another shout out to Gary. So he says he's been Zooming weekly LARE candidates to review their work for several years at no charge, giving back to the profession and the future of the profession. So thank
Wow.
you, Gary. We
Thank
appreciate
you,
that.
Gary. Yes.
Yes, gold
Thank you.
star.
If we change our state of residence, do we need to take the exam again? You will not need to take the exam again. I would say you can reach out in further detail to us. There's sometimes where it gets a little sticky depending on the state that you're leaving and the state that you're going to. So just for example, if you're in a state that requires pre-approval and you move to a state that does not require pre-approval, you have an accredited landscape architecture degree, it's kind of just smooth sailing. If you move from a state that does not require pre-approval to a state that does require pre-approval, you don't have to retake the exam, but you have to make sure that you had that gained experience before you start testing in order for that state to accept your exams. And so, for example, again, you go and test at a state like Virginia, they don't need with an accredited landscape architecture degree, you can just start testing, and then you up and move to Texas. Well, Texas needs 6 months of experience before you start testing. So you're going to need to show that you had that 6 months of experience before you started testing in order for Texas to accept those exams. So it's not necessarily you taking them over, it's just showing proof that you had that experience beforehand if you wish to become initially licensed in Texas. So I can go in more detail if you give us a call and show you exactly what that looks like. Um, let's see. So for international education, would ECE evaluation report qualify for approval? That would be sent to you directly from ECE. In that case, would you want the school to send you a copy as well? No. So you will send your transcript directly to ECE, and then ECE will send it to us. We do not need you to reach out to your school and have that sent directly to us as well. So just to ECE for a general evaluation, and then to CLARB. So pre-approval will stay active in CLARB until a paid council record is established. So pre-approval comes from your state. So once you are approved by your state, there are some states where you have to keep up with your jurisdiction fees, and that may be something that kind of holds back your pre-approval. But as long as you have a CLARB council record and you're up to date with your state and you've been approved, then your approval will be good to go and you can still register. The pre-approval process, we get a pre-approval list from each state that is a pre-approval jurisdiction before registration opens up, and we add all of that into the system and allow it to let you register for the exams. So yeah, as long as your dues are paid with the state and you're good with CLARB, your pre-approval will be fine. If I am in Toronto, can I apply? And if yes, in which state? So yes, you can apply with a CLARB council record as long as you meet the state's criteria. And so you'll have to pick a state and make sure that you meet that state's requirements in order to test. So I hope that answers your question. If you need a little bit more detail, feel free to reach out to us at CLARB as well. I still have a year and a half before I graduate with my bachelor's. Should I start the process now or is it too early? I would say to wait a little bit longer for you to start the process, just because typically most of your jurisdictions are either, if you're a pre-approval jurisdiction, they're going to want experience post-graduation. If you're worried about any type of internship hours, I would say to reach out to your state directly to get clarification on if they will accept internship hours. And then as far as your CLARB council record goes, to be honest, if you were to start it now, the process really starts after you get your degree. So you could start up your profile, but I wouldn't necessarily start up the record yet until you can start to really utilize it, unless you wanted to track like employment and so on and so forth. Then yes, you can start that now. Can I take the first two portions of the exam in one state and then the other two in a different state? Yes, you can, but that just goes back to depending on what state you're going to be leaving from. Like it just really depends on what the requirements are for each of those states. And so I would say for a little bit more clarification, to just give us a call. We also have an eligibility map on our website that kind of breaks down the states that are pre-approval and non-pre-approval states. So feel free to follow up with us after this, and we can get a little bit more clarification on what that looks like.
And speaking of that, I think now might be a good time to jump back into the slides because I think we'll actually have that map and we can show you guys in just a minute. So,
Yep,
Sean,
sounds
you want
good.
to take it away?
Yeah, I think I have a few more slides here. Um, and so for the official name of the licensure exam, it's a Landscape Architect Registration Examination, or LAIR. I've honestly heard Larry a couple of times, but it is called the LAIR, or the Landscape Architect Registration Examination. While your jurisdiction issues license, you will take the exam through CLARB. The exam tests for minimal competency, sufficient knowledge, skills, and ability to protect the public. Every 5 to 7 years, CLARB conducts a major survey called a job task analysis. This survey asks landscape architects across North America what knowledge and skills are required to practice as a licensed landscape architect. These findings are used to update the exam to ensure accuracy reflects current practice. The job's most recent job task analysis was completed in 2022. This process helps guarantee that the layer remains a valid and defensible assessment of the competencies needed to become a licensed landscape architect. And then, as I said before, here are your 4 exams. This is the exam. This is the exam blueprint. This exam consists of 4 sections, all of which are computerized, and you have 3 hours to complete each section. CLARB's website has an exam orientation guide that covers the content of each section in more depth. It also includes more detail about the entire exam process, which makes it a great resource to start with. And I believe this is where Alyssa takes over here. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will stay on here for questions at the end.
Sounds good. All right. So currently we offer the exam during 3 administration periods. It's typically a 2-week window in April, August, and December. And all 4 sections of the exam are available during those testing windows. And you can take as many sections as you would like in each administration. And you can take them in any order. So you can find this map on our website at clarb.org/REQ, short for requirements. So we're going to return to those jurisdictions. So remember that requirements for licensure vary by jurisdiction. And so one of the first questions you'll want to consider is, where do you want to work as a licensed landscape architect? This is important to think about because you will have to follow that jurisdiction's requirements to get licensed. And in most jurisdictions, you can start the exam as soon as you graduate with your degree. For example, let's say you want to get licensed in Florida or any jurisdiction that is green on this map. Green means go. So if you graduate from an accredited landscape architecture program, you will go directly to CLARB and you will start the exam as soon as you graduate, or you can. But you don't need any experience to start taking the exam. You just need your accredited degree. However, if you want to get licensed in Texas or any of these yellow states that you see on the map, You'll see that these are yellow. This means that you go to CLARB as soon as you graduate, but instead of registering to take the exam right away, you'll first need to talk with a CLARB support team member to understand the process that you need to follow. These yellow jurisdictions, they may require what we refer to as you've heard us say, is exam pre-approval before you can register to take the exam. So in either case, yellow or green, just remember that we're here to help you throughout the process, and starting with us is always recommended. We will point you in the right direction. Okay, so once you register for the exam with CLARB, you will schedule your test appointment with our partner, PSI. The exam is administered at PSI test centers and also through online proctoring. About 73%, I believe, of our candidates choose to take the test in person, and the remainder opt for online. So just an interesting tidbit for you there, but really the choice is yours. So you can take the exam in person at a testing center, or you can take it from your home or office. There are pros and cons to each, so it's really just whatever your preference is. We offer several resources, and many of them are free. I saw there was a question about this already submitted. So how do we prepare for this exam? And so we have a lot of resources for you to help you understand the content, the format, and delivery for each section of the LARE. These resources are not intended to teach or be educational tools per se, but they are designed to help you develop realistic expectations for the exam experience. We strongly recommend taking advantage of our practice exams. You can use them to familiarize yourself with the exam format and preview the types of questions and answers that you can expect on the exam, all at your own pace. Each practice test includes 50 questions per section. You get instant results and rationale, and you can attempt each section up to 3 times, and they're only $25 per section. If you are a member of the ASLA, which is free for students, you will find resources on ASLA's website. And if you're a member of the Canadian Landscape Architect licensing groups like BC, ASLA, AALA, OALA, you'll find resources on those websites as well. So we encourage you to search for exam scholarships. ASLA offers a licensure advancement program to help cover the costs associated with taking the LARE. And we know that other organizations and companies offer similar opportunities. So Innova Furnishings, that's one that comes to mind that we encourage you to check out. All right. And since we just did questions, I'm just going to keep on going, and then we'll hit some questions after this. So let's say you've been through the exam, been through everything, and you're a licensed landscape architect. So now you may be wondering, what's next? Our top recommendation is to keep your council record up to date. So maintaining your council record also keeps your CLARB certification active. CLARB certification is the industry recognized distinction that you have met the standards established by CLARB and carries our recommendation that you be granted licensure without further review. This is helpful for mobility and fast-tracking licensure in additional jurisdictions after you're licensed in your first jurisdiction. So as Sean mentioned, many licensed landscape architects are licensed in multiple jurisdictions, all the way up to 38, I think he said. And so this gives you a competitive advantage and the ability to work across, projects and across state lines. Your license will expire after a certain amount of time. So you'll want to add your license information into your council record, and we will remind you when it's time to renew. Many jurisdictions require continuing education in order to renew your license. You can keep track of your courses in your council record as you go to ensure that you have the details you need when that renewal time rolls around. Council record holders also have access to exclusive perks and opportunities to, exclusive perks and also opportunities to influence the future of the profession and how it's regulated. We also offer professional development trainings, continuing education courses, a number of volunteer and networking opportunities, and other helpful resources many of which are free or included with your council record fees. So we think it's a no-brainer to keep your CLARB council record active and up to date throughout your career. And it just makes being a licensed professional easier. So your next steps, you'll want to start your CLARB profile if you haven't already. What that is just creating an account on our website. Anyone can sign up to receive CLARB emails. This is the best way to learn about webinars like this one and to get helpful tips and reminders about important dates. And check out those resources we mentioned earlier, like the exam orientation guide, the recommended reading list, and $25 practice exams. Okay, so for those of you who are ready to start testing, your next opportunity to take the exam is coming up very soon. The last day to register is this coming Monday, November 25th. So you've got less than a week left to register. And so you'll want to go ahead and get that done so you can get the test appointment when and where you want to take it. And if you are taking it in December, good luck. Okay, so just to summarize, licensure is a formal legal recognition that an individual has demonstrated sufficient knowledge, skills, and abilities to practice landscape architecture without endangering the health, safety, or well-being of the public. To be licensed affords you equal status with other design professionals. It opens up professional doors and gives you the flexibility in choosing how you practice. The CLARB Council Record is a valuable tool that you can use throughout your career, and CLARB is here to help you through every step of the exam and licensure process. And just a reminder, our support team is available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. They can help you navigate on your path to licensure. So I highly encourage you to reach out to them. If we don't have a chance to get to everyone's questions today, they are standing by, they are ready to help, and they are definitely a great resource and a font of knowledge. So thank you all for your time today. We hope that you found this webinar useful, and we welcome your feedback on how we can improve for next time. So please take that quick survey. If you could, let us know what we can do better. And now we will open it up for any final questions. So it looks like we've got quite a few over here in the Q&A. Let's see what we've got. Let's see. If my CLARB council record expires, what is the process to reactivate it?
So reactivations currently have to be done over the phone. So feel free to give us a call Monday through Friday. And we will let you know what the price of that looks like and get you over to accounting to get you reactivated.
Is the fee for starting the CLARB council record a one-time fee, or is it a recurring expense?
So it is going to be a reoccurring expense. You're going to pay, depending on if you're a licensed or an emerging professional, you'll pay a little bit more and then a little bit less to actually maintain it. And that's an annual fee.
Okay. When does an individual become CLARB certified?
Once you have completed the LARE and become licensed, we can review you for CLARB certification, or you can reach out to CLARB and request that you be reviewed for CLARB certification.
If you don't have a degree but have multiple years of college education, can this be used to reduce the time of experience required before taking the exam?
To my knowledge, most states do not accept partial credit from a degree, but I would say if you want to pursue licensure and there's a state that you have in mind, it wouldn't be bad to have a conversation with your state board to see if that partial education could count towards some of the years that you would need.
Will the recorded webinar be available online? Yes, it will. We'll be posting it to YouTube, and I will also be sending out an email probably tomorrow or the next day with a link to that. Um, If I graduated recently, do I need to be taking LACES courses prior to getting my license? So that's the continuing education courses.
So the continuing education courses, to my knowledge, is only going to be to maintain licensure. So you do not need to be taking those courses until you have become licensed, and then your state board is going to require a certain amount of hours of CEUs to maintain a license.
Okay, what happens if I don't pass within the 3 times allowed? So that is only for the practice exams. I believe you have an unlimited number of attempts for the actual exam sections,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah, yeah. The three attempts are only for the practice exams. You have a year to take the three attempts. As far as the LARE goes, take it until you pass.
Once I start taking the exam, do I need to complete each section within a limited period of time?
No, you don't. But what I will say is, as we spoke about the job task analysis survey earlier in the presentation, there's times where there can be little to no change to the LARE, and there's also times where there can be big change to the LARE. And so, every 5 to 7 years, there is a chance that there could be a change to the exam, and maybe that change could make the exam into 5 sections or 6 sections, or maybe it goes down to 3 sections. However, that survey gives us feedback. We kind of make changes based off that. So I would say you're probably aiming for somewhere in that 5 to 7 year mark. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you would have to stop taking it or have a time limit on those exams. But I would say you're safe within like 5 years, and you're probably still good after the 5 years. There's just a chance that there could be change to the LARE, and you may have to take one more section or retake a section depending on what that survey comes back with.
Okay, going back to those practice exams. So do the 3 attempts have different questions? So is it worth it to take them again, even if we do well on the first attempt?
So currently they don't have different questions. We are working towards getting new practice exams, but right now, since they rolled out, they have been the same exact one. So if you do purchase it again, you will be taking the same exact three.
Hmm, looks like we've answered a few of these. Trying to get some that are not too specific. Once we are licensed, do we have to continue paying for the council record?
So I mean, the answer to that is no, you don't have to continue to pay for it. Where it becomes useful is, again, there's tons of resources on the CLARB website. There's opportunity to volunteer. It makes when you're applying for reciprocity, it makes that process a lot easier for you. If you want to call yourself CLARB certified, you will need to have an active CLARB council record. So I would say that there's tons of benefits to keeping the CLARB council record, but by no means, if once you're licensed and you've got through the process, if you do not wish to keep the record active, you do not have to.
Okay, after I've registered for the LARE with CLARB, how do I schedule the appointment date, and how do I set my appointment to take the test?
So it should have redirected you once you have registered. Um, I can break this down one time, and then also if you are not able to remember it or there's multiple people that need it done, they can just give us a call. But once you log into the CLARB website, you're going to click on My Profile at the top of the page, and you're going to scroll down to My Events Registration. Right above that wording, you're going to see a green hyperlink that says schedule/reschedule my exam. By clicking on this, it's going to redirect you over to PSI, and it's going to show you the available tests, the ones that you have purchased, in order for you to schedule those. And you can pick from online or in person there, in a different jurisdiction, the time, so on and so forth.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions from international applicants. Sean, could you just speak a little bit to what the process is for someone who needs to verify their education internationally?
Mhm. Yeah, so we use a verified system called ECE. What we do is we have you send any degree that comes from abroad through ECE for a general evaluation. And what that does is tell us the equivalency of a United States degree or Canada degree. Now, keep in mind that this degree wouldn't be considered accredited because it is from abroad. So, if you do have international experience, regardless of the state or province that you choose to test in, you will need to apply for pre-approval in that jurisdiction. And need to, have some experience in landscape architecture before you can start testing. And once you submit your transcript through ECE, you can choose to have them send it directly to CLARB, and then we will verify that in your record for you.
Great. Okay. Shifting back over to the exam. So, what would you say are the differences or the pros and cons between testing in person versus remote?
So I would say the differences are, if you're testing from remote, then, you're not leaving your home, or maybe you're taking it from your office space. So I think there's the convenience in that you're not around other people testing. And so like if you're someone that doesn't, maybe someone chewing gum next to you is going to bother you, or coughing a little bit is going to bother you, maybe consider taking it from your home. The one thing that you do battle as far as testing from home is there's some things that could go wrong. Now, I don't want to say, yeah, oh, well, let's freak out and say, oh, let's not take it from home. But you are responsible for if the power goes out, you take responsibility for that and have the possibility of losing your exam. If your internet is not strong enough and then you're kicked out of the exam, you could be responsible for that exam and forfeit that exam. And so I think that those are some of those things that even though they may not be in your control, you do take responsibility for those. Going to a testing center, there's definitely some benefits to that. We have now rolled out to where you can get a physical calculator and whiteboard at a testing center only. So if you choose to do so, if you choose that that's a feature that you want to take advantage of, then you will have to go to a testing center to do that. Also, we do offer accommodations, and some of those testing accommodations, can only be used at the testing center. Now, there are ones like extended time that you can take from your home, but there's other ones that maybe you need a reader, or maybe you need a separate room where you would need to go to a testing center in order to do so. But I think it really just comes down to your preference. Maybe you have one that's right around the corner from you, but there's other people that don't have one within 100 miles and they don't really have a choice. So we wanted to make sure that everyone has access to the exam that wish to take it.
Okay. If I fail a test section, do I have to register and pay for that section again? Or if I fail, can I try and take the test again with the same fee?
You pay every time that you test. So if you fail, you pay the fee to test again.
What is typically the first section that people start with?
So that's always a tricky question because it's really preference. I will say that I believe statistically, I've heard that planning and design and inventory analysis coming out of school is a little bit easier. Maybe the construction and documentation or grading is a little bit harder. Maybe you need to gain some experience first. And so I think it's just where your knowledge is when it comes to taking the exam. Now that we have rolled out the provisional feedback, I have seen people actually taking them in that order of us how we've rolled out the provisional feedback. So, we rolled out inventory and analysis first, and people that were just coming into the field testing and they heard this, they were like, okay, well, that's going to be my first exam. And now in December, we rolled out planning and design, and now that's their second exam. And then they're going with the order of where the provisional feedback comes out. And so again, it's personal preference, however you want to start, but that's just kind of the trends that I'm starting to see. But I would say like where your knowledge, where you feel most comfortable to pass the exam is where you should start.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about CLARB certification. So what are the requirements to become certified?
So the most straightforward way to become CLARB certified is with an accredited landscape architecture degree and 2 years of, well, and also passing the layer, and then 2 years of experience in all four of the categories that are the exam. So your inventory and analysis, your planning and design, your construction documentation, your grading, drainage. We want to see 2 years of experience under a licensed landscape architect with an accredited landscape architecture degree. That is the straightforward path. You can go an experience only pathway. You can go with a degree that is in another profession. But as you go those pathways, we're going to need to see more experience. And so it really just depends on your circumstance. And, if you have an accredited LA degree or if you have another bachelor's or maybe you don't have a degree, you can go anywhere from needing 2 years of experience all the way up to 8 years of experience under a licensed landscape architect. And so we review you based off what your record has or the experience that you have. It's going to be your school, the scores, and then the experience that you have.
Great, thanks. And could you speak a little bit more about the benefits of being CLARB certified?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people like to put CLARB certified next to their name. It's like a legal recognition again, just like being licensed. I think that's something that you strive for. Also, it kind of I would say it speeds up the time for licensure. So being CLARB certified, essentially, when a board looks at that, they're going to say, okay, well, the CLARB certified, the CLARB is recognizing them to be licensed essentially anywhere, even though the licensing requirements differ from each state. Being CLARB certified kind of gives you that extra edge or maybe speeds up the process because they don't have to do such a deep review of the experience you already have because you have that CLARB certified next to your name or your record.
All right. Is there a deadline to reschedule a test that you purchased and scheduled for next December? So I'm assuming you've registered to take the exam in December and you want to change your test date. I believe you have a 48-hour window. You have to do it before 48 hours out.
Mhm.
And the deadline to cancel if you decide not to take it at all, that is actually Monday, November 25th. And there
Mhm.
is a cancellation fee associated with that. So just keep that in mind.
Yep, that'll be $100 cancellation fee, and that's canceling on the 25th or before then. And then as far as rescheduling, if for some reason, hey, maybe the time and date doesn't work after the 25th, as long as your appointment, if you do it before 48 hours before your appointment, you can reschedule your exam in that same window past the 25th.
If I am licensed in different states, do I need to renew all of the licenses individually?
Yes, you'll need to work with each state to renew those license. It's not like just a pay one fee and all of the license are renewed. I mean, I know if somehow, some way you got all those license in the same month, moving forward and you can knock that all out in one swoop, cool. But 9 times out of 10 it doesn't line up like that. And your initial license or your renewal license is going to be different in each state. Some states renew at the end of the year, some states renew a year or two from the day that you got your license. It really just depends on the jurisdiction.
Yeah, so it might be every 2 years, every 3 years, and so you could have, staggering licenses, which is another reason why it's helpful to maintain your CLARB Council record because we'll send you those reminders to help you stay on top of things. And
Yep.
same thing with, continuing education. So you may have a license that renews every 2 years, and you have to get X number of hours of continuing ed for that license, but it may be different for this other one over here that's every 3 years, and so keeping it organized through your CLARB pencil record is a huge help.
Yep.
Once I'm licensed, how do I maintain the council record? Is it continual payments or CECs?
So,
Um, Go
oh, go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, no, I was going to say, so yes, you do have to pay annually. And then I'm thinking you don't need to keep up with CEUs in order to maintain the record. I will say if you're actively using the record, the only thing that we're really going to ask you to do is update license when you get them. And then also to update your employment within the last 3 months. That way, when that time comes that hey, I got another state I want to apply to, your record stays ready to go and you just click a button. It doesn't have to be CLARB kind of bugging you like, hey, look, we're missing this information. We can't meet our deadlines because we need this. from your supervisors, or we need this information. And so I would say maintaining it is just like keeping your employment up to date, as well as adding any type of license that you get, throughout your career.
Okay, we have a question from Aparna. Renewing your license, do you have to complete the 4 exams again like the first time?
No,
No.
no. You don't have to take the exams again. Once you have, let's just say, even if your license expired and you were out of the profession for a while, I don't think you would have to take the exams again. You may have to pay like a reinstatement fee or show your years of experience and make sure you have that experience. But I haven't seen a circumstance where you've had to retake the exam unless you took one exam back in 1990 and then you stopped testing and then you wanted to start testing again recently.
All right, and Laquan is asking, are we licensed landscape architects, and can we share what has helped in getting licensed? So we are not. However, Sean, I know that you've probably got some great advice and tips for navigating the process.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, jumping on it as soon as you can, like tracking every step of the way, getting this information into the CLARB system. If you don't know something, call and ask for help. Me or any one of my colleagues are a great resource for you to help you through the path to licensure. I think just staying on top of the things that you need, gaining the knowledge that you need in order to know exactly what your state needs and that, as far as requirements go or the education. So just trying to gain as much knowledge as possible so that when that time comes for you to start taking the exam or for you to apply for initial licensure, nothing jumps out or surprises you and say, "Oh, well, I didn't know that," or "Hey, I didn't know to ask that question." We will walk you through every step from the time that you graduate, or maybe you haven't graduated yet, from the time of like when graduation comes to taking the exam, to gaining the experience, to applying for licensure and beyond that. And so just gain that knowledge and know exactly what's needed in your state for licensure. And then if you don't know, just call Clark and we'll help you out.
Great. Okay. Let's see. We've got time for a couple more questions, I think. So looking at experience, can that be under an architect or does it have to be strictly with a licensed landscape architect?
So I sound like a broken record here, but that's gonna be determined by your state. So there's gonna be states that want that experience to be under a licensed landscape architect, but some of that experience may be under a licensed architect, engineer, surveyor. So that's just part of like gaining that knowledge of knowing exactly what your state wants. I would say typically you'll see that maybe 4 years of total experience is needed, but only two under a licensed landscape architect is required. Those other 2 years that you need can be under another licensed profession like an architect or an engineer, a planner, a surveyor, so on and so forth.
Where is the best place to find information about certain requirements in my jurisdiction?
So that's you can use the CLARB eligibility map. That's a great resource. And then if you can't navigate that, just give us a call and we'll let you know.
Yes, we know that map can be tricky. That's one of the things that we're working to improve with our new website. So I would definitely recommend reaching out if that gets to be a little bit overwhelming.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm trying to catch any of our other questions. I know we've got several that we're not going to be able to get to today because they're specific to a specific jurisdiction or your individual situation. So I encourage you to reach out to the support team. Let me get that back up on the screen for you. Oops, let's see. See if we can
I did
get,
have
yeah,
I did
go
have
for it.
one question here that was in the webinar chat. And so it says if I just received my pre-approval from California for December of 24 exam, but I feel like I don't have much time to study, can I wait to register for April of 2025 or do I need to submit another application for that period through them? You should not need to resubmit. So if you just got approved, your approval should be good and you can wait and test in April if that's what you choose to do. Sorry about that. Listen.
No, you're good. Let's see. I'm going to try to cram in a couple last questions here. So where do I find the PSI testing location information?
Yep. So, as I stated before, if you go to my profile, well, actually, instead of doing that, you can go right on the CLARB homepage and you can click on register for the exam. And then instead of that next step being that you click register for the exam, there's going to be check for availability. You can check where the testing centers are and what seats are available before you actually pay and register for the exam.
Great. Okay. And then do we consider international experience when we're looking at CLARB certification requirements?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be counted essentially as an other bachelor's or master's, but you can become CLARB certified with that. You just may need more experience under a licensed landscape architect. Or, sorry, I did misspeak earlier. It's under a licensed professional. So, landscape architect, architect, engineer, surveyor, planner, so on and so forth.
Great. Okay. Let's see. And last one, Danielle had a question about financial assistance. I mentioned ASLA has some resources. It's called the Licensure Advancement Program. Definitely recommend checking that out. Inova Furnishings offers a scholarship. Let's see. I believe NAMLA and potentially Black Land may also have some resources. So definitely kind of get connected in the community and look for those scholarships. I know that they are out there. So I encourage you to definitely look around.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for today. We want to be mindful of your time and get you on with your day. So if we weren't able to get to your question, feel free to reach out to the support team. They will be able to customize their response based on your specific situation and make sure that we get you the right info and get you on the right path. So thanks again for joining us and look for the email coming soon with the recording and the survey and all that good stuff. So thanks a lot for joining us and have a great afternoon. Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys. Have a great afternoon.